for those people who are familiar with Prince of Persia, there's sort of this legacy attached with it in terms of fluid animation, storyline, lots of personality in it, and elegant simplicity that Jordan puts into his games, both in terms of the control of the character, the intuitive interface, the fact that there is no point scoring or things like that. It's all about sort of immersing the player in a very richly textured environment and letting them kind of get lost as they play the game. That's why I say the vision is Prince of Persia 3D. We want to try to retain all those virtues and take it into tomorrow's technology. And I say tomorrow's technology because looking at where things are today, I mean, some of the more recent products are really very, very impressive 3D engines and 3D capabilities, and they all do things particularly well. But what we really are focusing on trying to do is seamlessly integrate technology and content. What's important for us is to retain the fluid animation. We're spending a lot of time on Prince. He's going to be a extremely high polygon count character. We're putting a lot of emphasis on making him look as real as possible and non-polygonal. Because of that, we need to have a significant amount of horsepower, and I think that the machines that are coming out today are going to give us that kind of support along with 3D cards.
I think they're two separate media. Just as theater is its own thing with its own conventions, things that does well, things that does badly, so is film, and so are computer games. And there's a way to take from one medium, to borrow from another medium in another, and in fact that's what all new mediums do when they're starting out. Film, when it was new, the first films looked like someone set up a camera 7 center and filmed stage play. Then the things that are specific to film, like moving camera, close-ups, reaction shots, dissolves, all these effects kind of became part of the language of cinema. Same with computer games. It's to take a long film sequence and play that on your TV screen is the bad way to make a game cinematic. It's a computer game is not a VCR, but if you can somehow if you can borrow from the knowledge that we all carry around inside our heads of how cuts work, how reaction shots work, what does a low angle mean? Dramatically, what does it mean when the camera suddenly pulls back and gives you a view? We've got this whole collective unconscious of the vocabulary of film, and that's a tremendously valuable tool to bring into a computer game. And actually 3D is a phenomenal opportunity because now, for the first time, you can put the camera anywhere. Prince of Persia, you had 2D, you had to put the camera far away, look at everything in profile, and that's where the camera was for 6 hours. Now you can actually cut whenever you want because the whole world exists as 3D models. And I think we're just beginning to tap into what can be done. Despite the tremendous technological advances, 3D games are still in their infancy in the sense of where to put the camera, just as movies were in their early days. And every new game that comes out has rings some new variation on it, and there's usually some important advance there that that you can look at and say, yeah, that's the way to do it, and that gets drawn on in future games. But the problem I have with all the games that are out there, and I've played some of them quite extensively for fun. Actually, I played Tomb Raider a lot with my wife because she's got a very good sense of direction, so she can tell me when I'm coming back to a door that I've been. She's like, "Why are you going there? You've been there before." I'm like, "Oh, have I?" Because my problem that I have with all games, all 3D games, is that they're just too hard. I lose track of where I am, and there's so many controls that my finger. There's always one or two that I forget that I never use. One thing that with Prince of Persia, I really tried to do in the first one, and I hope we can do it. I hope we can translate that to 3D. Is that the controls were very simple enough that even someone who doesn't play computer games, someone who's a child or my grandmother could pick it up and with them a bit of wiggling around, kind of figure out what the controls were and who that little guy was and what they're supposed to do, and not be threatened by it. Whereas a lot of the games I see, they're good once you get into them, but there's just this wall you have to climb at the beginning of mastering D-pad controls and knowing how to go to an inventory screen and select your item. Geez, if I have a hard time with that, I know there's other people out there who would play these 3D games if they just weren't so hard. We always think we're stealing, but what it comes down to it, if you can bring, we borrow from everywhere, from movies we've seen, books we've read, games we've played, and and real life as well. And if you can merge all those elements into something that's coherent and that captures people's imaginations, you've done your job.